Now we'll continue the conversation on redefining what we think we know about blockchain, diving into public blockchain and what that would look like. Please welcome to the stage Silvio Micali and John Woods.
Silvio, so good to see you, my friend.
Great to see you, John.
So, I hear you've been cooking again. I hear you're bringing more innovation back to the blockchain space. And I also hear that innovation is called fiat chain. So, what is fiat chain?
Well, John, fiat chain is rethinking public key blockchain. And in two words, is tokenless consensus. It is the first public chain that has no tokens required for consensus.
I mean, that's essentially unheard of, right? Every blockchain out there has a token tied in some way to consensus, whether it's proof of work, proof of stake. So what's the advantage of tokenless consensus?
Well, remember, the purpose of the token was to secure a public chain. But this security came at a price, which I call the market cap security. Because when in a traditional chain, secured, whose consensus is secured by token, the market cap of the token is the maximum security of the chain. So in other words, if the market cap of the cryptocurrency is, say, in the billions, can you put trillions dollars of value of assets on a chain that in some sense is insured up to a billion? I don't think so.
Right, and I've spent time working across a whole bunch of layer ones, and all of them have the same dream. When is the trillions of dollars of real world assets and government grade assets coming to the chains? But you're quite right, of course. You can't issue $1 trillion or $2 trillion or $10 trillion of assets on a chain that is attackable for billions of dollars. And so, okay, so you're doing tokenless consensus. Are you now against crypto? Are you?
No. I have nothing against crypto, but I just want to make sure that I love blockchain. Remember, crypto has been a tool to an end, and the end is the blockchain. I love the blockchain. We all love the blockchain. We are all here because we believe in decentralization, in empowering everybody, financial empowerment for everybody, and really global trust and transparency. So if a chain can actually be more secure without the token, we should embrace this advance.
So, okay, so you're telling me there's no token required for consensus. So does fiat chain have no native token whatsoever then?
I did not say that. I only said that fiat chain requires no token for consensus. But there might very well be an ecosystem token in fiat chain, because no matter how great a chain I can design or we can design, the value of the chain really ultimately is given by the value of the apps that the great developers produce and enrich the assets on the chain and the chain itself. And we need to attract the best developer to develop the best apps in the fiat chain, and therefore there might very well be an ecosystem consensus token in fiat chain.
Okay, so this would be the first time, though, a blockchain has been launched without a token. I mean, every single one of them, they came at the same time with simultaneously the chain and the token, right? So you're able to roll this thing out without a token and add it later?
You're right. And in fact, actually, it is very important, particularly if you want to attract, the assets of the financial industry, of the institutions, that you don't have a lurking around the ecosystem token that may be deemed to be a security. So it is important that we first roll up the chain, but the chain should be fully operational, so that it is very clear that the ecosystem token does its job, which is really further attracting developers of the chain that already exist, and is not a way to finance the chain at all.
Right. And so you're going to roll out the chain. Potentially 6 months later, you might roll out the token.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And so it sounds to me as well that, like, although we've gotten recent guidance from the SEC, right? The SEC has been more open about things recently, and I think that's been helpful for the industry.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like with Fiat Chain, if you're launching without a token, you're essentially executing a pristine launch, right? You couldn't be more meticulous because there's no suspicion whatsoever, right, that the token is a security in that regard because the blockchain came first.
Correct. We are very grateful, by the way, of the new efforts of SEC to provide new guidance, but somehow it is a unique opportunity to have the ecosystem token decoupled from consensus, that somehow we can design the ecosystem token so it is very, very clear that it's not a security. I think this will benefit everybody.
Beyond reproach.
Absolutely, like Caesar's wife, above suspicion, okay?
Okay, so I think institutions and the type of people and entities that you're trying to attract, I guess, to bring trillions of dollars on chain, they're going to love this. Does this mean that Fiat Chain is essentially an institution-only play? Is it a blockchain only for institutions?
No, in fact, actually, is the chain for everybody. But let's make it be clear, okay? If we want to have the chain to have a financial empowerment for everybody, okay, that is great. Now we have the perfect, transparent chain. Now we can transact. I can buy, your asset without a trusted intermediary. Hooray! Fantastic. But what if there are no assets? So let's remember that 99% of the assets of the world sit outside of the chain. When I want to interact with the regular finance, I have to go into the old-fashioned way, not on the blockchain, and that is a pity. So what we really want is to be able to attract the institution, because at the end, that is also good for the individual that we want to empower. Because if there is no assets, there is nothing that we could do of substance on a chain.
Absolutely. And so Fiat Chain, is it public only? Is it private only? I mean, these institutions, if history's taught us anything, they sometimes like to start in a private context. Does it support both, or is it public only?
Well, let me be very clear. I'm a proponent of the public chain. I believe capital flows to public chain, trust flows to public chain. So the network effects are with the public chain. But you're right. So traditionally, people feel more secure to launch a private chain. But I believe that that is understandable, but is also a limitation, because to launch a ship on a lake, which very tranquil waters, is easier. But it's even easier to launch a ship on a swimming pool, okay? Very large swimming pool. But once you are there, what do you do? And so the transition, you are the danger that if you build a private chain, you will build a castle whose first prisoner are going to be yourself, because it's going to be very hard to extricate and to go public. And somehow, the Fiat chain, for the secret sauce that enables it to be tokenless in consensus, you can actually seamless transition from private to public whenever you want. You get rid of a firewall, and the same chain becomes public right away. So that, in some sense, makes it easier. If you really want to start private, I don't recommend it, but if you really feel more comfortable, I understand, you can start private, and this technology allows you to become public very, very easy later on.
Gotcha. I can see how with tokenless consensus, if you have like 10 instances of Fiat Chain, right, and they all over time start opening up, right, they become publicly addressable on the internet, they become publicly discoverable on the network, I can see, because there's no native token on each one, there isn't a competition as to whose tokens becomes the canonical token. Instead, they can all, like water droplets, just kind of merge together and form a larger whole. Is that essentially how it works?
Yeah, you're right. So it's easier for, say, a consortium of institution to form a private chain first and become public, and a second consortium forms, a private chain becomes public. Now, my oh my, you have two public Fiat chain. But again, this tokenless feature is the gift that keeps on giving, because these two public versions of a Fiat chain is very easy for them to merge, not to interoperate, but even merge. You say, this is silly to have two public chains, why don't we merge? And this can be done very easily too.
Cool. Let's switch gears a little bit, talk some techie stuff, some nerdy stuff, because I know people out there will want to know, not necessarily all the handsome people in this room, but certainly the nerds on the internet will want to know. What's going on with the smart contracts? You have, it sounds like Fiat Chain has smart contracts, it's a sophisticated chain. Are you doing your own virtual machine again? Are you doing your own language? How will the smart contracts work?
Actually, there is some good news here, in which the Fiat Chain secret sauce is about how you manage to have everybody has the right to become a validator, can become a validator, and you want to make sure that by technology allows you to have a honest majority of validators, okay? That's the secret sauce. But what do the validators do? Well, they do a couple of things. They produce blocks, and they execute smart contracts. So if you love the way Algorand produces a block,
And I do.
I'm glad to hear. Okay. So if it is a Byzantine agreement on every block, you say, I'd love to have a fiat chain as the core, but I'd like to have the Algorand way to have Byzantine agreement on every block, you can. If you on the other side say, I love to have a round robin, we organize all these proof of stake, agent 1, 2, 3, to speak in turns, and you can do that too. And when it's time for a smart contract, again, if you say, I love Solidity, I love Ethereum, you can actually endow the fiat chain with the Ethereum smart contract system or with the Thiel Algorand smart contract system, etc., etc. So we are agnostic about how do you produce a block, what smart contract system you use, provided, and what this, we can be agnostic because at the core we have this secret sauce, which is how validators are chosen, which is the fiat chain way of choosing validators.
Okay, so the immutable part of fiat chain is that tokenless consensus, that innovation, but it's pluggable, it's modular. You can bring your own smart contract architecture. If you want to take, I seen Fred up here on stage earlier, you want to take Plutus from Cardano, you can slot it in. You want to do EVM, you want to do Algorand virtual machine, whatever you want to do, you can stick it in.
Correct.
Okay, it sounds pretty flexible. So, I guess the next question is, can any one of these foundations be part of this? Is it essentially, Solana Foundation, Algorand Foundation, they can just reach out and start integrating with fiat chain?
Correct. In fact, maybe it's a good idea to set up, a green line that you can call if you want to have your smart contract system, say, to be integrated. And I cannot promise that I will be handling the call myself, but perhaps I will provide such a service. But realize, however, that when you ask for such integration, we have a finite number of engineers and they can not work on everything. So there is a cost associated. But yes, the ability to integrate any contract system you want and any way to choose the block you want is there.
Well, personally, I'd quite like to see you take a break from being a theoretician and start manning the phones. But okay, let's assume foundations out there see this tokenless consensus. They're excited about the fact that, hey, if I integrate this, there's no limit to the value of the assets that I can safely tokenize on my chain. Why should they reach out? Like, what's the core benefit beyond that? Is it something that's going to be a network effect? Does it help their ecosystem?
I believe so, but the proposition is that if you have a crypto chain and I have the fiat chain and I can bring the institutions no problem because there are no tokens in consensus, etc., and we share the same, say, smart contract system, then interoperability between us is very, very easy, of course. But even more, so if you care about the developers that have developed on your chain, then any smart contract that they've developed for your chain also works on fiat chain, and you give them a second venue, a second bite at the apple to be useful and to serve assets. So if you care about this, you may call the green line. If you don't care, don't call. Okay,
okay, call the green line, get you. But I hear what you're saying. So basically, because you've got this polymorphic behavior in fiat chain where it can essentially talk to any smart contract bytecode, people who've built apps for Ethereum, Solana, Algorand, or others can essentially lift and shift that zero cost, essentially zero additional development effort, drop it in to fiat chain, and then it just works and has all the benefits of that context.
You got it.
Okay. So I think the last thing to ask really is when are we going to get a look at this? Is this something that's a few years out? Is it still in your head? Or, is this something that's going to be concrete soon? Because it sounds exciting.
Well, I spoke about the inception of the idea of a fiat chain here at Paris Blockchain Week last year. Right. And under the radar, I started developing the thing, okay? And so that has been very exciting. So at the end of this quarter, Q2 of 2026, will be ready with the minimum viable product. And even though it's minimum, it's going to be very viable. Of course, it's going to have the tokenless consensus.
Sure.
It's going to have the easy migration from private to public. But it's also have other goodies. In particular, it's going to be quantum resilient from day one. In fact, from the very first block, from the very first block onwards, is going to be quantum resilient. I believe that is what a blockchain deserves these days, given the Google announcements, right? And
Right.
2029 is becoming very, very close.
Right, and the Google paper, of course, I guess notoriously used your very own zero-knowledge proof technology because they were too afraid to release their research to the public, right?
It was very responsible for them not to release, and I appreciate that they used zero-knowledge proof to convince us that actually whatever we were saying was true without telling us why.
But let me ask you, is it going to be fully quantum resistant, this chain? From day one?
Absolutely, from day one. That is what, frankly, a blockchain deserves in this day and age, right? So, I mean, maybe years ago, but if you don't have a quantum resilient chain in 2026, I think something is wrong.
Yeah, it's becoming a very, very serious threat. Okay, so you're telling me June is the MVP, and that's when people could start getting involved. Of course, it rolls out tokenless consensus.
Yeah.
Any number of any value of asset can be secured by it. It's decentralized. It's quantum resistant. What's after that? What comes after the MVP? I suppose the token rolls out later. I suppose you've already said.
Yes. Well, actually, tell you the truth, I was impressed by another development that you've seen in our wonderful ecosystem. So if you look at the Hyperliquid, I think they have a wonderful idea.
Sure, it's been extremely popular, and it's exploded because people love the decentralization and the liquidity, etc. Right?
And they deserve to have the success, because I really believe that the blockchain, when you want to make it a market, and having a secondary market in which there is an opaque transaction, the bid finds the ask in some mysterious way, and then you only use the blockchain as a transparent repository of the solution found inside an opaque box, that is a no-no for blockchainers like us. And so I really believe it is a great idea to have an open order book marketplace. That's what blockchain can do and blockchain should do. So we are funding that maybe we should add this and launch with this open order book marketplace as well. In such a case, that will require a few more months, maybe September 2026 will be appropriate.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So MVP June. If you decide to do the Hyperliquid competitor, you're ready to go.
Competition is good.
Around September, and it all rolls out quantum secure and tokenless consensus. Silvio, it sounds extremely exciting. Thanks for coming and tell us about it, everyone. Silvio Micali.
Thank you. Thanks.
Welcome to Signal Week.